My name is Jesse Milestone, founder of Milestone Fencing Studio, a brand new saber club that will be opening its doors in Pasadena, California in early 2022. And on that note, before we get into today's video topic, I'd like to invite everybody to check out our Indiegogo. We are raising money right now for that very purpose of opening the club. And for just $5, you can become one of our founders, get your name on our founders banner that's going to hang in our club forever. So that's pretty exciting. Now, on to today's video. If you checked out the first video on this channel, Why Fencing, you'll already know that I hinted at the myriad ways in which fencing has improved my life outside of the obvious, like fitness and stuff. And we're going to talk about one of those in more depth today, because this doesn't just apply to me, but to anybody who gets involved in fencing. If you become a good fencer, it's pretty much impossible to get better at the sport without also getting better at driving, becoming a safer driver. And that's for these three main reasons. The first one is this little concept called right-of-way. Now, right-of-way is something that we don't experience in a lot of aspects of our life except driving. It's the one place we hit it pretty regularly, or if you're a fencer, you're going to get it there too. Now, in driving, right-of-way is, the basic idea. If you drive, you already know this. If not, well, here's your first intro. When two cars meet at an intersection or need to cross each other's paths, essentially, there are rules of the road that dictate who get to go first. And if a car accident happens, then somebody comes, it's the job of the police to come and determine who had the right-of-way, therefore who was not at fault, and consequently who was at fault for said accident. Fencing, you can kind of think of it the same way, right? Two fencers are feeling out right-of-way, and when they both decide to go, collide, have an accident, as it were. The fencer who had the right-of-way, when they both meet, gets the touch. The fencer on the point, the fencer who doesn't, does not get the point. And so, like I said, there's not a lot of other places in our life where we really get to experience this concept of right-of-way. Most of us aren't introduced to it until we get behind the wheel at the age of 16. Now, if you've been fencing since you were, 10, that's 6 whole years where you've got to hone your understanding of right-of-way, where you get to hone your understanding of when it's your turn to go, when it's not your turn to go, the intricate relationship of movement in a space that determines, when it's safe to proceed. So that it's just sort of interesting that we have that crossover of concept. We even use the same turn of phrase for it, because it really applies in a very similar way. Now, that's just one of the ways. The next way, it's also pretty obvious when you think about it. It's the reaction time. Driving, as we all know, people say something can happen, something can go bad in a split second, in the blink of an eye. That's what happens in fencing. In fencing, you have a lockout time, right? That's the time in which that I have to hit you after you've already hit me, or the machine is only going to register your touch. That also is less than a second. Now, when you first start fencing, it is impossible, even in foil that has the longest lockout time, it is impossible to react once your opponent has already hit you and finish that action. But over time, your reaction improves. In case you were not aware, reaction time is something you can work on. It's a skill that you can actually work on and improve for yourself. And over time in fencing, you actually learn to input stimulus, respond to that stimulus faster, make a decision in that split second, be able to react to more things, be able to reason at a faster level, be able to make a better decision in that moment. Obviously, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how this is going to help you out on the road. You improve your reaction time, you improve your ability to take in multiple stimuli, especially during a high-stakes moment, this moment where there's a lot of adrenaline, certainly on the road. If you've ever had that experience of nearly being hit, oh my God, your heart starts to race. Well, on a fencing strip, when you're facing your opponent with a sword, your heart's beating just as much. Even though it's not life or death in the same way, it still feels like it is in the moment. And so it's a really great experience in a safe environment to learn how to react under that kind of pressure. So when you actually need to, when it does become a true matter of life and death, you're much more likely to make the right decision. And then that brings me to the third and final point, which is that as a fencer, you learn how to recognize, without seeing the eyes of your opponent, without seeing their expression, the most telltale giveaways on a person's face, blinded by the mask, you learn how to read your opponent's body language. Based on any little thing, the shifting of their weight, the angle of their toe, the cant of their blade. That may be the determining factor in letting you know what they're going to do next. By the same token, if you know what you're looking for, you can actually know and tell, or at least hedge your best guess as to what a driver is going to do next on the road before they do it, by watching those little things, the body language of the car, if you will. here's an experiment, right? You guys can try this yourself, practice. When I go up behind a car at an intersection, if I'm coming up to a main road, say I'm turning right onto that main road from a side road, and I come up behind another car that's also turning right, I can tell based on the body language of the way they pull into the intersection, whether or not there are other cars coming and how close they are. So sort of three main categories I group that into, right? And that's, you can tell if the car in front of you peels out really quickly, they found their little hole, they shot into it, and you ain't gonna have time to go. So I'm gonna roll up, wait, look, find my own hole. Now there's the car that's been waiting for a little bit of time, waiting for a while. Some cars have gone by, and they kind of pull out, not in a super crazy hurry, but they're not taking their time. You'll probably have time to slide through next to them because they've waited. They found a nice, comfortable, cushy hole, but there's still probably cars coming somewhere behind them. And then, of course, there's the best. There's the car that rolls up, sort of inches their way forward, never really properly stops, and just collides into the intersection. And when that happens, you know for damn sure that you got a clear road behind you, and you're gonna roll right in there as well. Now, obviously, if you're gonna test this theory, always look both ways before you pull into an intersection. Always do that. But try this out. See if you can start to tell, see if you can start to determine, based on the body language of the car in front of you, what might happen. Now, that's not the only way that you can recognize this. There's other things you can start to tell when a car is about to say, change lanes, perhaps into you, and they're not paying attention or refusing to use a turn signal because why is this nonsense stick on the left side of my wheel? What is it for? I don't know, just saving lives, but who cares? You may also be able to determine when a driver is, say, looking to turn, looking to park, and may abruptly hit their brakes with, again, without signaling. So all of these things, you get to learn that because in fencing, once again, you have to read all of those little micro expressions. It may be the slightest, tiniest movement that's your only telltale sign of when your opponent is about to strike. Now, in fencing even, unlike on the road where drivers often are just distracted, they're rarely trying to purposely misdirect you to cause an accident, fencers are. Fencers are doing everything in their power to do that. So you have to be even savvier at reading all of that information to determine what's going to happen next. And just like we talked about the reaction time, that split-second reaction time, this skill is so important. You really cannot become a better fencer without acquiring it to some level, because that split-second reaction time, you can only build that up so much. Everything else is this information you get by watching your fencer's body language before the touch, during the touch. Learning how to do that, learning how to recognize that, again, especially when they're trying to misdirect you, really makes it easier when you're on the road, seeing all the little shifts, all the changes in speed and flow of traffic. It really give you a sense of when a hole is gonna open up for you to change lanes, when a driver is gonna do something unsafe, when a driver is suddenly gonna change the way that they've driven. So, if you want to become a safer driver, you want your kids to become safer drivers, you want them to have want to hedge their bets that they're not going to get into an accident, that they're going to come home safe doing one of the most dangerous day-to-day activities that we all regularly partake in, well, sign them up for fencing, Saber especially. We work so quickly, our touches happen the fastest. Sometimes a touch itself doesn't even take a full second to happen. So come bring in a Milestone fencing studio or a Saber club near you. Get them fencing. And while you're at it, guys, check out the Indiegogo for Milestone Fencing Studio once again. For just $5, you can become one of our founding members. So thank you so much again for watching. And until next time, on guard.